All right. Okay, so we completed modules 1 and all of module 2, and today we're gonna kick off module 3. And let me share my screen. And today we're going to talk about risk. There we go. Let me know when you guys can see my screen.
See it.
Oh, cool. Awesome. So yeah, we're gonna dive into risk and the difference that PMI sees risk that we don't usually think of in our own day-to-day. So excited to talk about that. And then I think that's all we're going to be able to cover today. If not, we might be able to touch on some communication, but definitely risk for today. All right. Assessing and managing risk. So we're going to go over a risk management plan. And as you guys are really tired of me talking about the risk management plan captures how we are going to go about, capturing, identifying, mitigating our risk, but not necessarily the actual risk. So the actual risk will be in the risk register. So risk management plan talks about the how, the who. Risk register captures the what. What risk are we seeing? Different tools. OPAs, you guys remember this? Organizational process assets. As opposed to what's the other? You guys remember the other one? EEFs, the external environmental factors. So OPAs would be your documentation, our tools like our SharePoints, policies and procedures. This would be more internal to us and we have more control. And EEFs. Oh, yeah, Pete, we weren't talking about uh, divisive things. We were able to start recording earlier, but thank you so much for the reminder. Um, Meetings, expert judgment. We're going to go into the different risk analysis techniques. Um, we're going to talk about the probability and impact matrix. I have a slide for that. And Elicio, how was the game, man?
Well, it's unfortunately it's raining out here too, so everything keeps
Raining.
getting.
I see clear skies and a few
Oh,
clouds.
it just poured I left about half an hour ago. No, we
Oh,
did well this morning, and we come back at 3 o'clock and play.
oh, good, man. Who are you playing against?
Other teams from all over the country.
Wow, wow, that's absolutely amazing. Well, best of luck. We're talking about risk today, so
And
I'm sure that
perfect.
you're mitigating, right?
All right,
Risk
thanks, Ian.
and yeah, well, I'll let you go and best of luck from all of us. See, next time, guys, let us know if you're playing a championship game in Vegas because we could have mitigated it by just going there, like supporting the team and
Yeah. Our team bonding experience right there.
yeah, that would be it. So if any of you guys have any championship games, let us know. We'll be there to support you. Yeah.
Sounds
Do
like you.
do kids games count or do they have to be our game?
As long as it's in Vegas, I guess. I think that's the
Okay,
main
there we go. That's the qualifying criteria.
that's
Extended family counts.
There you go.
extended family counts, right? Um, wonder what the weather is right now. It should be pretty warm, right, in Vegas?
It's
Uh,
humid now because it's like mid 80s, but it's been raining for the last 2 days. So it's starting to be real humid.
Oh, wow. Yeah. I don't think I've ever been in Vegas when it rained. How about you guys? Has
No.
anyone experienced rain in Vegas?
I've been in
Oh, no.
Vegas. It was 120 degrees and raining. It was
Mhm.
Oh my
miserable.
God. That
What?
sounds terrible.
Oh, how
Oh,
hot was that rain?
I've been here when it's been snowing.
Good Lord. Are you sure you're in Vegas? Might be in North Dakota. Where are you, man? Um, wow. Well, best of luck, buddy. And yeah, keep us posted on the score. All right. So for the test, here's the first thing that I want you guys to write down. Um, in our normal day-to-day conversations, when we talk about risk, it's usually a negative thing, right? No one talks about a risk as a positive thing. So Jennifer, if I tell you that, hey, go down the 101 or it's very risky. You know, when I use the word risky, that's negative, right? That no one thinks of it as a positive. But for the purposes of the test, risk is actually considered as an uncertain event or condition that could have a positive or negative effect. So it's anything that could change, right? So the key word is change. It's anything that could change your scope, your budget, your resources, timelines. So any event or condition that could change any of those is considered a risk. So change can either be good or bad, right? So that's the first thing I want you guys to um, write down or underline is for the purposes of the test, risk is anything that can change the project, and that change could be good or bad, be positive or negative. So that's the first thing. The second thing is a positive risk is known as an opportunity, while a negative risk is known as a threat. So positive risk is known as an opportunity. Negative risk is known as a threat. And so we'll talk about this in a little bit here, but if it's an opportunity, you're going to do your best to make it happen, right? And if it's a threat or a negative risk, you're going to do your best to either mitigate it or prevent it from happening. So, all right. So risk could be positive or negative. La'ana, what do we call a positive risk?
Opportunity.
Kelly or Tuno, what do we
Huh?
call it?
Opportunity? Can you hear
Yes.
me?
Yes, I
Okay.
can. Yeah. Yeah, you're right. Absolutely. Kelly or Tuno, what do we call a negative risk?
That would be a threat.
A threat. Okay. Um, Melissa, what type of risk would we want to optimize or try to make happen?
An opportunity?
Trinity. Sweta, what type of risk will we try to avoid or mitigate?
Negative risk.
Negative, also known as
Known as threat.
threats. Right. All right. Trigger condition. So this is something that happens that indicates that a risk is about to occur. So let's say, Nikki Ham, you're picking up Edward from the airport, and then Edward says, "Hey, Nikki, it seems like my flight is delayed leaving Las Vegas, so more likely than not, I'm gonna be delayed getting into LAX, right? So that phone call is a trigger condition. It's something that indicates that a risk is about to happen, right? So Edward isn't late yet, right? But that phone call tells you that more likely than not, he will be late. So that's a trigger condition. Other trigger conditions could be you're attending a wedding and the weather forecast says chances of rain in Vegas today. So that's a trigger condition. So obviously it hasn't rained yet, but this is an event that indicates that a risk is about to happen. So that's called trigger condition. All right. So project risk management, this talks about how we're going to plan for, identify, analyze, mitigate, the risk that comes up in a project. When you're doing really big projects, you have a project governance, it's very important that you're capturing risk in all of your meetings, all of your work group sessions, and that risk is entered in a centralized location so that anyone can see, all the risk that is captured. And for really big projects, there's actually a risk project manager. Like the only thing this person is doing is managing all of the captured risk. So let's say you're building, well, in Mike's case, Navy ship, or uh, uh, building a tower, or you're working for SpaceX, or so anything that has just a boatload of risk. There's usually an assigned person or even group that's focused solely on that. Especially in the government, they do have like risk management groups. And man, I don't know if I want to have that job. Like all you're thinking about is risk all day long, day in and day out. What do you think, Patrick? That's something you'd be interested in?
Absolutely not. No. Sounds stressful.
But it could be a good thing, right?
It,
Yeah.
I know, but as soon as you finish taking the PMP test, that part goes away. No one talks about good risk. It is all negative. If someone says, "Hey, Chris, that sounds like a risky job," that's never, like meaning safe job. Nope, that is
You say
going down a
take the
coal mine.
opportunity.
Right, yeah. So, hey, you have an opportunity here. No one says, hey, you have a positive risk.
No, you don't mention those, and then what happens when they happen, you get to be like, oh, wow, look at our project timeline moved up by 2 weeks. Can you believe that? You don't warn it it's gonna happen ahead of time. I mean, come on.
No, absolutely. Yeah, this is, one of those counterintuitive. I understand where they were going with it, right? Because they define a risk as anything that could change, and change could be positive or negative. So I understand the logic, but it doesn't marry how we use these terms in reality. So first they said, yes, let's throw it in the test to confuse Chris. That's, that's the sole purpose. So yes, so the risk management approach, you want to consider how risk either risk averse, or what's the opposite of averse? Or like risk taker, right? So either you're super cautious or you're a risk taker. So think of it as, on the cautious side, maybe Warren Buffett, and then on the opposite side of that, maybe Elon Musk, right? So Warren Buffett invests in bubblegum, Wrigley's. Well, Elon invests in rockets. So, but the thing is, neither one of them are considered, good or bad. It's just, what is the risk? Here's another word to write down: risk appetite. So how comfortable are you or the organization is with risk. So a high risk appetite means that you're willing to take on things that are new. Low risk appetite, you're more of a follower of things that are already proven. And a lot of this also pertains to your capacity for failure. So UCLA, for example, the research department has, a lot more funding compared to, say, a community hospital, if they have research at all, right? So with that, you have the capacity to take on more risk. Research organizations like City of Hope, for example, right? So most of what they do fails because they're trying to do new things all the time. So they have a really high risk appetite. And they accept that. That's part of what they do, is research, trial and error. So neither one is right or wrong. It's just a matter of where you position yourself and what you can tolerate and absorb in terms of, the downside. We talked about the risk management plan. So these are things that are part of that, impact, probability. There it is, the risk appetite that I was talking about. So, what is our strategy, methodology, funding, timing? As you can see here, for the test, there's nothing here that includes the actual risk. Again, this is just the methodology, how we go about. So different ways to identify risk. Expert judgment, if you're building like a data center for the first time, pulling in someone who has done it before is a smart idea, right? Asking them, hey, what have you noticed? Or if you had to do things over again, what would you do differently? Data gathering, pretty self-explanatory. Data analysis, looking at the data in front of you.
Ian, I don't know if it's just me, but I don't see your slides.
Oh, does anyone else?
I
see.
can see him.
Yeah.
I can see too.
I'm gonna try logging in and out, or out and in. Be back.
It's just Victor.
I'm sorry, Victor. I wish I could say I have a setting that just blocks you, but I don't. Maybe it's the Wi-Fi.
It's got to be the Wi-Fi.
Yeah, might be. There's a lightning storm going on. Oh, that was Victor. Okay. I thought that was you, Alicia. I'm like, good Lord, it seemed like pretty clear just a minute ago.
No, it's another power outage like West Valley Hospital again.
Wow. So yeah, so risk identification, data gathering, data analysis, you want to have different people looking at the data because, as humans, we tend to overlay our subjective analysis of what we're seeing. So having people that think differently than us, or assigning someone to kind of play, blue team to your red team, is very valuable when you're doing data analysis. And also, it's good to have, oh, cool. So are you able to see the slides now, Victor?
Yeah, everything looks good now.
Oh, beautiful. Thanks, man. It's always good to have someone that is pessimistic on the team if the entire team is optimistic, and vice versa. You just want to look at things from different angles, and that will decrease being blindsided, right, by these risks. Interpersonal team skills, it's pretty self-explanatory. Prompt lists, so these are lists that you might have related to, very similar to like a trigger condition. where you have lists that, oh, okay, so if this happens, then, if this, then that type of thing. So those are your prompt lists, and obviously meeting helps with identifying risk. So these are different areas that are commonly affected, broad strokes, right? So a risk could either make your schedule, delayed, or maybe you get there early if it's an opportunity, cost overruns, or maybe you save. Your quality could go down or maybe improve, and the scope might increase, or you can, it can help make sure the scope is as planned. So these are in broad strokes, like these are the things that are affected by any risk that comes your way: your schedule, your cost, quality, and scope. All right, so these are source-based risk classification. You don't need to memorize this. This is just an example. Internal, external, technical, non-technical, so on and so forth. So these are just different ways of classifying risk. So for us, it could be technical, clinical, operational, right? So that could be one way of classifying the risk in terms of the source. Or it could be location based. If your project, touches, let's say, Reagan, what's the new hospital again?
West Valley?
West Valley.
Valley.
Yeah, West Valley. So you can make the classification by location too. So this is just an example, so no need to memorize that. Okay, so let's spend a few minutes on this slide, because this is one of those things that we don't usually use in day-to-day language. So we'll start from this upper, what is this, right corner? So we'll start here. So known. So these are risks that everyone knows. So for example, if you're driving from Orange County to UCLA and you're going to be on the 405, we know that there's a high likelihood that you're going to be late just because of the traffic. So everyone knows that. It's fully understood. So those are known. So things that you just know that might happen. Or let's say that you're planning a wedding in the rainy season, let's say in Thailand. So you know that there's a high likelihood it's going to be raining at that time. So you just, you know that, and you prepare for, to move indoors if that happens. So known knowns are pretty straightforward. Known unknown. So information that is understood to exist, but not in the possession of the person seeking it. So let's say, for example, Jennifer Ng. So Jennifer, let's say she's working on a biomed project, and she's trying to figure out, which ventilator is more resistant to, let's say, power fluctuations. So someone in biomed knows that information, but Jennifer, as the PM, might not know that, right? So it's information that is understood to exist. So someone in biomed knows that, but not in the possession of the person seeking it, in this case, Jennifer. Let me stop right there to make sure that everyone is with me. Does that make sense? That's the known unknown. So it's known to someone, in biomed, right? But it's not known or unknown to Jennifer at the moment, right? So we know it exists, but Jennifer doesn't know it yet. So the other one, the flip side of that, is the unknown known. So information that an individual organization has in their possession, but whose existence hasn't been realized. So let's say, for example, Melissa, you're working, let's say, in the ICU, and there's this new drug that helps um, with hypertension, and you've had 5 patients that's been on it, and you've captured that every time you give this drug, not every time, but there's a high likelihood that the blood pressure just precipitously drops, right? So you're going from like a 170, 110 to like bam, you're like in the 90/6 or something. And you've noticed this happen in 5 of your patients over, let's say, the month that you're in ICU. Now, you have that information, but you just haven't put it together yet, let alone report it up to administration. So the data points are with you. The information is with you. It exists. However, you haven't put it together yet and haven't reported out to anyone else. So it's an unknown known. So the value of this drug, or not the value, the risk of this drug dropping patients' blood pressure is unknown to UCLA at this point. However, it is known to you, Melissa. So you know this, but you just haven't shared it yet. Or even yourself, you have the data points, but you haven't had that aha moment and said, wait a minute now. This drug tends to precipitously drop patients' blood pressure. So that is a case of an unknown. The organization doesn't know about it, but it's known to you. So that's the opposite of the biomed that we gave. And the last one is pretty straightforward. Unknown. We don't know about it. So there's a new drug, let's say a new vaccine coming out next year, right? For COVID, for example. We know that this new vaccine is coming out. We haven't tried it yet. So we don't know what side effects it will bring, efficacy, and all of that. So this is something that we just don't, no one knows. It's unknown. So it's the opposite of driving up the 405, where everyone knows. Whatever your timeline is, just add to it, because you're not gonna get there on time. So I want to stop right here, because this is Pete, thanks for letting me know. This is one of those things, no one talks like this. No one says, hey, Jennifer Mansourian, what's your known unknowns? Like, no, said no one ever, right? So I want to make sure that we're comfortable with this slide, because they're gonna ask a question about this when it comes to risk management, because again, it's just something that we don't use every day, and they're trying to make sure that you actually read the book and all of that. So known unknown, everyone knows about it, no secret there. Known unknown, I'm sorry, known, no secret, everyone knows about it, that's good. Known unknown is when the information exists, but the person seeking it doesn't know. So in your notes, you can put in the example of, biomed guy knows what ventilator is sensitive to power fluctuations, but the PM doesn't know about it. So that's a known unknown. Unknown known is when the organization doesn't know about it, but there's someone in the organization that knows about this. And in this case, we gave Melissa, who's the first to start using this drug in the ICU. So she knows that, blood pressure fluctuates, but it's not something that, all of the ICU know about just yet. And unknown is just, an example would be a COVID vaccine coming out in 2026. We just don't have enough information about it. Let me stop right there and make sure that this is somewhat clear. You're good? Okay, so it's just these two guys, right? The known unknown and unknown known. These two guys are the ones that are a bit tricky. So let's do this. Jasmine. So you're working on, let's say, you're on a hand washing initiative, right? And so one of the complaints is that the soap that we're currently using at UCLA is super sticky and it takes a long time to, rinse it off, right? So now you're on the hunt for a better solution to the existing soap that we're using. So let's just go around the dial here. Is this a known situation?
Well, does everybody know that the hand soap is sticky?
Everyone knows, but no one knows what a good alternative is.
So it's
So let's
either
just
known, unknown, or known, known.
Yeah, so let's go around the dial. Is it known?
No,
No. So okay, so cross that out. Is it unknown?
no,
No, right? Because we know something about it. So
yeah.
the part that's tricky. Let's assume that someone in EVS knows where the better soap is, the one that's not as sticky and rinses off better. But you, Jasmine, you don't know, but someone in
So
that
it's
situation does.
unknown, known.
So this one actually is known unknown. So
Oh, known, unknown. Okay,
because
because
someone in EVS knows about it, right? Information that is understood to exist, but is not in the possession of the person seeking it. In this case, it's you.
okay, so known, unknown.
Exactly.
I don't know about it. Okay.
Right. So a good way to think about this for that second part, so for the top part,
everyone.
is everyone. There you go. Thank you so much.
Okay.
So the first part is everyone, the second part is you,
Okay.
right? So now let's do another example. Let's say that Curlin, we are hosting an event at UCLA, and we, it's graduation. We're pointing people to park in this parking structure that is, maybe a block away from UCLA. And you know that there's like water damage, or probably not a good example for parking lot. What damage could happen in a parking lot? Oh, there's an accident, right? There's an accident that happened in the parking lot. And right now, you're the only one that knows about it, right? The organization doesn't know about it yet, that there's a car that, hit something, and it's blocking the entrance into this parking lot. So the everyone, right? The first part is still unknown, right? So UCLA doesn't know about it. But the second level, known, you know about it, right? So that's another example of a unknown known. So for the test, the best way is try to just remember as minimal as possible. So so it might help you to think about that second level, this unknown right here. This is you, right? Do you know about it? Like you being the person seeking the knowledge. If you know about it, then that's this guy right here, known. If you don't know about it, then it's this one right here, unknown. That might be an easy, hack so that you don't mix these two up,
That's a good trick.
right? Jennifer, does that make sense? Jennifer M. Okay.
Can you repeat that for me, Ian, please? I'm sorry.
Absolutely. So the problem with this slide right here is just these two guys, right? The known, everyone knows. Unknown, no one knows. So that's pretty straightforward. It's these two guys that are tricky. So the way to remember it is think of the bottom one as pertaining to you or an individual. So in the case of you know, the soap, right? We're in a hand washing initiative, and we're trying to figure out a soap that is less sticky, easy to rinse. You don't know about it, but someone in EVS does. So at this point, it's unknown to you. So if it's unknown to you, then this is it, right? This is the answer to your question. Now, the opposite is, let's say, you know, we're in charge of an event at UCLA, and we're telling people to park at a certain parking spot, and there's an accident at the entrance of this parking spot that as of right now, only you know about it, but the organization doesn't know about it, right? It just happened. So the second line, Chris knows about it, so it's known to him, but it's not known to the organization yet. So just think about the second line, just remember that. If it's known to you, then it's this guy right here. If it's not known to you, then it's the one above.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, so that might be an easier hack. So you don't need to remember everything. Just ask yourself, is it known to me? Yes, this one. Is it not known to me? Okay, then that's this one. If it's known to everyone, then obviously that's this one. If it's unknown to everyone, then that's this guy. Jeffrey.
Hey, and okay, so I get it, but then also I'm a little bit confused.
Sure.
Because we're saying the bottom half is, say for instance, the project manager, right? Or me, and then the top is kind of everyone else. In the example of an actual project where I'm the project manager, but you have a whole project team made up of different people on the project. Does that really mean like for instance, let's say the top right corner, known, unknown. The unknown is just the PM, and the known part is, does that mean like everybody else on the project, or everybody else on the project plus the organization? You know what I mean? Like, is the bottom half,
Yes.
it's really just me?
So this one would be just you. And so let's say, for example, you're testing out, you know, this new software that we're about to install in MedSurg, for example. And you're constantly coming up with an error as you're entering, let's say, patients' demographics. And at this point, only you know about it, right? So you, the tester, as part of the patient group, it's known to you, but it's unknown to the project team or the organization as of right now. So that's an unknown known. It's known to you. Now, you bring up a great nuance, Jeffrey, wherein this could also mean like the project team, like it's known to the project team, but unknown to the organization. So,
Got it.
so that's correct too. If the question is, you know, if you think about the Challenger accident that happened, that's actually an example of an unknown known. Because the team, the engineering team that was working on it, knew of the issue with these rubber gaskets, right? The infamous O-rings, if you guys remember that. They knew of it, right? But when they tried to bubble up that risk, their superiors was like, hey, unless you're absolutely sure that this is an issue, I don't want to bring this up because we're already running late per our schedule, right? So that risk was known to the engineering team, folks working on the project, but it was unknown to, well, all of NASA and obviously the general public,
Okay.
including the White House. Yeah.
Okay, but I have a question because you said you made them they were made known of the situation. The
They
White House, the
tried
general
to.
public.
They tried to.
Okay, they tried to.
So
Okay.
so let's say Patrick was your boss, and you told Patrick, hey man, these O-rings, when we apply this amount of temperature,
Mm-hmm.
they tend to melt.
Right.
And then Patrick says, does it happen every time? And you say, well, not every time, but most of the time. So it's a big problem. And Patrick says, well, unless it happens all the time, don't bother me, because White House is already breathing down our necks about the timelines and everything. So that information is just with you, Kenny, and with Patrick, but it never got out to everyone else who should know about this.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So that information was suppressed. And I'm sure, I'm sure that there's oh, here's a good one. I just finished listening to uh Bill Clinton's autobiography, the first book he wrote. And towards the end of his presidency, they had a mission where they were about to take out Osama bin Laden, right? And everything was in place. The team was ready to go. And the last minute, the CIA, along with the Pentagon, DoD, pulled the plug because the likelihood that he wasn't there was higher than the likelihood that he was there. So no one really knew about it. But looking back, that was one of the things that President Clinton, kind of regrets. Like, what if we took our chance there, right? Would that have prevented 9/11, right? So, but obviously if he wasn't there, then it wouldn't have. So, um, that is, I'd love to pick your brains, guys. In that case, what type of risk classification is that? So the team on the ground had like a 40-60. 40% Bin Laden was there, 60% he might not be there. So those were the probabilities. Would that be
Known
would that
unknown, right?
That's what I'm leaning towards.
a
That would
known
be unknown known. That would be
Yeah,
unknown known.
unknown? Would it be this one or this one?
It would be the one
I
in the
think,
bottom
I
one.
think it would be the top one because you know that you don't know.
Yeah. Like,
Like
think
60% doesn't know, right? So
But
we
I
all
thought people on the ground knew.
So that's a really good point. Someone obviously knew in that particular building if Bin Laden was there or not, right?
Hmm.
It just so happened that it was none of the CIA folks.
Oh, okay, well, there you go.
Right? Because if it was like, Sweta was with the CIA, it's like, yeah, I'm looking at him. He's like, eating lunch. Then that would be unknown to Sweta, right? But unknown to the rest of the CIA. In this case, no one on the team knew for sure. But someone obviously knew about it, someone in the building knew about it. So is that this guy? Unknown? You know what I mean? Don't worry, they're not gonna grill you on CIA operatives on the test.
Yeah.
I was just
If
thinking about this
I would
example.
say if nobody on the team knows it, it's an
Right.
unknown,
Right. You're right.
Right.
right? Because it's one of those things like, whatever project that you're working on or whatever you're developing or whatever, somebody probably knows the answer. But if they're not there on the project team able to help you, it's unknown to you, to the project.
Right.
Yes. So it's definitely not this guy, because no one on our team, or in this case, the CIA, no one in the CIA knew about it, right? For sure. So it's not this guy. So it has to be this guy. So it's unknown to the team, but it's known to someone. We just don't know who knows about it. So don't worry, it's not on the test, but I just thought it was like super interesting. Because the work that, the CIA, DoD, those guys, it's all probabilities. Rarely is there 100% on anything, right? Even when we attack, like vessels and whatnot, there's a really high probability that there's, terrorists or drugs or whatever, but it's never 100%. So this is something that they probably do day in and day out. Like, what is the probability? What is our, so part of
And in that case, since it's a probability, when does it become known that it's 100% that they're sure of something?
I guess when, they see it, right? So like in the case of, like, say, El Chapo, right? When they were, trying to hunt him down, when they saw that he wasn't in his cell anymore, and someone saw him, going underneath the tunnel. So that started out as unknown. And when that person, let's say it was Nick, called up and said, "Hey, he's out here, is in the tunnel. Come on, guys, get the cavalry going." Then at that point, it became known, right? So now everyone knows about it. But the genesis is usually here, I would argue, right? It's one of these guys. But yeah, so known is someone knows about it, but not everyone. And known, unknown, someone in the organization might know about it, but folks on the team don't know about it yet. So we're doing, every time you do a discovery session with a stakeholder, you're trying to assess current state. So that's an example of a known unknown, right? Because let's say you're doing a current state with behavioral health, right? Like, how are they using, Epic and behavioral health? That is known to them, right? The current state. It might not be known to you because you're new on the project. So that's unknown. Cool. All right. I think we beat this one to death. We've known to beat it to death. Awesome. Are we good to move on to the next one? It's known to be beaten to death. Risk threshold. So the amount of risk that stakeholders are willing to accept. So I think it was in 2008. This was the fourth launch of the SpaceX rocket. And they already failed 3 times. The first 3 attempts, failed publicly and catastrophically. And in that 4th attempt, if the rocket would have exploded, yeah. SpaceX did not have enough money to cover payroll in the next 2 weeks. And so listening to that story, that is like, holy smokes. So Elon's tolerance threshold for risk is beyond the chart. But he put everything on the line, and thankfully that 4th one succeeded, and NASA gave them a contract for $1 billion, and that's what kept the company afloat. In the same year, Tesla did not have enough funding to continue, and they were raising funds, and it was the last Friday of the year in December of 2008 that the funding came in, and Tesla was also able to, well, continue to cover payroll. So in that month, two companies were about to die, and listening to Elon tell this story in one of his interviews, I was like, good Lord. Some people are just built with a capacity to endure such stress, and I'm not one of them. I don't think. First of all, like for the rocket, after that second blow up, I'd probably take a good 2 years before I get to the third one. Like, I'm so scared. Um, but for him, he just powered through all three and got to the fourth one. So the risk threshold that we all have, and obviously organizations have, is very different. And not all, companies that have a high risk threshold succeed, right? So if you remember, do you guys remember the Concorde? It was the fastest passenger jet that pretty much cut the trip from New York to London in almost half. You guys remember that, the Concorde?
Oh yeah, I do.
So that was a really high risk project that eventually the financial model wasn't sustainable, so obviously they had to close. So high risk threshold doesn't necessarily equate to, long-term success. If anything, you have a lower probability of success because of all the risk that you're taking on. So that's the risk threshold. So just understanding what your organization or the team is willing to take on. And for us, bringing it back to UCLA, this would be as you're going through the scope, and let's say the vendor has a new product, and what's your kid's name, Jennifer?
That's Logan. He loves being on calls.
Logan. Really cute. So Jennifer, let's say that the vendor has a new product, and they're like, "Hey, Jennifer, we'd love for UCLA to try this out. It does this, that, or hi Logan, this, that, or the other." If your team says, your project sponsors and all of that says, "You know what? That sounds pretty cool. Let's give it a shot." And we're the first customers to do it. Is that a high risk threshold or a low risk threshold?
I am sorry. They have been talking to me this entire time that you are asking this question. I'm trying to like do this, but I didn't hear anything you said.
No worries. No worries. So if you're doing a project and the vendor has something new, hasn't been tested, but it seems like a really cool feature, and let's say that your project sponsors say, "You know what? This is really cool, Jennifer. Let's do it. Let's include it in the scope." So is that a high risk threshold or a low risk threshold?
That is a high risk threshold.
Correct. Correct. Let's say, Patrick, that we're doing an Epic install, and the team is already saying that, okay, with what we have in scope, I think this is pretty good. And the Epic rep said, "Hey, Patrick, we have this super cool thing that, it's been around, but I've noticed you guys haven't installed it yet." And you run it up the flagpole, and the executive team says, "That's okay, Patrick. We'll catch that in phase 2. We won't do it right now because our scope is already, pretty full. Is that high risk threshold or low risk threshold?
Low risk threshold for that.
Okay, so that's it. Awesome. So very similar risk appetite, uncertainty organizations willing to accept. So this is, the high risk, high reward type situations. So the higher the appetite for risk, the higher the uncertainty that you're willing to take on, the higher the reward. So risk tolerance, level of risk exposure, above which risks are addressed and below which risks are accepted. So this is so think of it as a good example of this might be in manufacturing, right? So let's say that we're spitting out, widgets like let's say we're doing batteries, right? And out of 100 batteries that we're doing, our risk tolerance is, let's say, 3 out of 100. So if as we're doing the testing and 97% of the batteries are good, then we're okay shipping it, right? So anything below 97, we address it, we don't ship it. So that is your risk tolerance. Like, how much exposure are we willing to accept? Because you're never going to get to 100% in anything, whether it's batteries or whether it's medicine. Everything is less than 100%. But what is that line that we're willing to accept? And we'll ship based upon that line. Here's something that I just learned relatively recently. Do you guys know that in like cereal, there's an accepted tolerance for percentage of insects in the cereal? Do you guys know that?
Yes,
So like,
and other products too.
God,
and other stuff.
Yeah, what about candy bars, right?
Or like
Yeah.
nuts.
Candy
Trail
bars
mix.
and
what?
okay, so I was like that earlier. Like, what?
Break it down, Ian. Break it.
How high is it?
I know I forget the
I don't want to
number,
know.
but this is one of those things you don't want to remember, right? Because you'll never enjoy Cheerios again. Um, but there's
To
an
be fair,
acceptable,
it's any processed food or any
yes,
food in general.
anything that is manufactured, right? So anything that is stored in a barn or in a building that can have, well, crickets, right? So there's a level that is accepted by the Department of Agriculture. So yeah, there's an acceptable amount of we'll just leave it at crickets. So I was like, wow, I did not know that. And insects equals more protein. See, Kelly, you always need to have an optimist in the group. I love your point of view. Alicia's looking down like, nope. I want my protein to be known. I don't want any unknown source of protein in my cereal. Yeah. So we have an accepted level that we say this is good enough. The same thing too with mercury in fish, right? So any fish that eats smaller fish as part of its diet has a higher mercury content versus fish that don't, i.e. salmon, they eat smaller shrimp, right? So they barely have any mercury content. versus, let's say, tuna or sharks or swordfish, the mercury content is really high. So there's an acceptable amount of mercury that we accept, and you can sell for fish, for example. So there's all these types of, when you dive into, you know, risk tolerances and thresholds, it's crazy. And the same thing with like seat belts. Apparently seat belts are not 100%. So and brakes and everything. So there's a level that we accept, that we tolerate. And anything below that we accept, anything above that we address and fix. So that's risk tolerance. It's 3:07. Let's go ahead and take our 10-minute break, and then we'll finish up what we can in terms of risk. So let's reconvene at 3:08 now. So let's reconvene at 3:18. All right. Last 40 minutes, guys. We can do this. Okay, so we talked about risk tolerance, risk appetite, and all of that. See if there's anything here we haven't. This is a good point. Be consistent with risk approach, but be mindful of emerging special circumstances. So if there's anything new that's going on, or you haven't tried out or haven't tested, just, you know, being open-minded, what Mike mentioned earlier, making sure that the culture is such that anyone can raise their hand and say, hey, this doesn't feel right, seem right, and there are no repercussions to just, you know, raising your hand and mentioning that. And I think that's a super crucial, so that if there's something that comes up that you don't have all the details yet, but it just doesn't feel right, if people can voice that soon enough, then that, you know, increases your chances of capturing negative risk, which, Jasmine, what is negative risk? I think Jasmine stepped away. Alicia, what's another term for negative risk?
Correct.
Threats, thank you. So, two types of risk analysis. The first one is a qualitative. So this is looking at the probability, right, of this risk happening and what is the impact. So probability and impact. So higher probability, higher impact, and that is, you know, high on our risk analysis. So for that, you want to focus on, you know, the high priority risk. So do you guys remember this was after 9/11, and every time you go to the airport, there's that different color-coded risk, like the risk for today is an orange, which is like moderate risk. And so that's an example of qualitative risk assessment, right? So it's giving, you know, some sort of color coding to capture the risk level for the day. And I'm glad that we don't do that anymore. I still don't understand why we need to take off our shoes, but that's a different session. uh, it's and you don't know how weird that is until you travel to other countries and you can see the Americans in line because they're the only ones taking off their shoes in the in the security queue. Everyone else is like, what are you doing? So, okay. So probability and impact matrix. So this is a grid, which I'll show you here in a second, that captures the probability of, you know, a risk happening and what's going to happen when it does. So let's do this one side at a time. So it's divided into threats and opportunities. So threats bad, opportunities good. On your x-axis, you have the impact. So very low to very high, right? On the probability, at the bottom, you have very low and then very high. And so this is a good chart to capture, let's say, for example, who haven't I called on yet? Jennifer Palomo, if you're here.
Yes.
So Jennifer, let's say that I have a risk. It's a negative risk, so it's a threat. And this risk is high in terms of the impact. So the first thing we want to do is first find that, right? So first impact, right? So you said impact, you said high. So right now we're at this. I don't know if you can see me highlighting this. Okay,
Yeah.
so 0.04, right? So that's where we're at. So that's one component. And then I'd say, but it's a high risk, but the probability is actually pretty low. So now you have another data point. So we're at the high and it's low. So the combination of the probability and impact of this is 0.12. So it's actually, you know, it's pretty low in the grand scheme of things. So not something to worry about too much. Does that make sense? How to use this chart? So, Lana, let's say that I have a risk, a negative risk. The probability is medium and the impact is medium. Where does that land us? So
Say that one
probability.
more time. Say one more time.
Sure. So it's a negative risk. So we're in threats,
Okay.
right?
Uh-huh.
The probability is medium. So
Okay.
first you find it,
Uh-huh.
okay,
Uh-huh.
medium. And then I say the impact is also medium. So now you kind of move this way
Yes.
and you stop at,
0.10.
yes, 0.10. So which one has a higher risk analysis? Was it the one that we just did with
The
I'm blank.
latter.
So was it Jennifer? What did we just do the other one?
Jennifer.
Yeah, it was
Jennifer, right? Yeah. So Jennifer, what was your score? Do you remember?
It was, yeah, 0.12.
0.12. And Laana, what was your score?
0.10.
0.10. So in terms of priority, which one would be a priority for us?
Jennifer's.
0.12. Jennifer's.
Jennifer's, exactly. So that's how you use this chart. So you look at, you know, the impact, and then you trace the probability. So let's try on the other side. So Patrick, this is, we're getting word that the materials that we're going to be using for constructing the new neuro center, the tariff seems to be loosening up, so we might actually have a price decrease for the material. So is that an opportunity or a threat?
Opportunity.
Opportunity, absolutely. So in terms of impact, let's say that this is high impact. So now we just start mapping out, right? So very low, we work our way to high, right? And let's say that the probability of this is also pretty high because it's all over the news that, you know, we're relaxing our tariffs on, let's say this is coming from China. So high impact, high probability. Where does that land us on this chart?
High impact, high probability is going to be like 0.28.
0.28. Perfect. Perfect. And let's do one more. Carol, are you still on?
Yes, I'm here.
So Carol, let's say that there is a slim chance that we might actually get the materials early. So in terms of impact, let's say it's a moderate impact, right? Moderate impact. But let's say that the probability of that is low. So where would that land you on this chart? So moderate impact and low probability.
0.06.
0.06. Perfect. So for the test, they might make you do that, which is pretty straightforward, right? You just have to focus on one side. So if it's a good thing, just focus on opportunity, forget this guy right here, and then just start mapping it out. Now, the tricky part for the test is they might not outright use the words very high, high, or moderate. They might use words to signify that. Let's say, for example, there's a slim chance, like a slim chance, very slim chance, right? So you're looking at very low or low, right? Or it's highly anticipated that it will happen. So what does highly anticipated mean? Are we talking impact or probability?
Probability.
Probability, right? And let's say it's highly anticipated, so it's probably, high or very high. So, and then this would be a really welcome change. So let's say it's I don't know, additional funding for the California speed train, which is the slowest speed train in the history of speed trains. So the impact would be very high, right? So what you sometimes need to do, if they have options for like, the results, you just kind of play around with, okay, let me try very high and high. Okay, 0.5. Is that in the options? If it is, then that's your answer. So, but they're more concerned with you understanding impact and probability than, being able to do the math or just find it on the chart. Any questions about this chart before we move on?
And in the exam, when if we do get questions about this,
Yep.
would they provide a chart or do we need to memorize these, like the numbers and
Who was that?
me, Kelly, Fortuna?
Kelly. Since I like you, Kelly, I'm gonna tell you the truth. You don't need to memorize it.
Okay.
If I didn't like it, I would say yes, memorize the chart. I'm kidding. That would be very cruel. That would be a threat with negative impact. No, I'm kidding. No. They provide this chart to you, so you don't have to memorize it.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Yeah. But great question though. I'm happy you asked that. I'm sure someone in the group would be like, oh, let me try to memorize it. This is pretty straightforward. Cool. So we talked about qualitative, right? So that's prioritizing, high probability, high impact. Quantitative is figuring out a numerical assessment of the risk. So actually, if you think about it, what we did here with saying like, oh, we have a 0.2, right? So that's actually quantitative, sorry. So when you assign a numerical value, now you're moving into the quantitative. So quantity just means numbers, right? So, when people say, hey, Chris, on a scale of 1 to 10, how likely is this to happen? And you say 9. So that's a quantitative assessment. But if someone says, hey, Chris, how likely is this to happen? And you say very high. So that's a qualitative assessment. So pretty straightforward. All right. So it's really good if you can assign numbers to it because you only have, so many descriptors like high, very high. But if you have numerical assignments to it, then you can have an 8.2 or an 8.5. So, yep.
So the numbers in the chart, maybe I missed it, but how was that calculated, or is that something that is just given? I don't know. If I want to figure out whether something falls in line with this, like how would I determine?
So if let's say you had to recreate this chart,
Or maybe my own risk or probability, analysis or something? Would we ever have to come up with something like this?
No, they give you this chart. But you can, what you can do is just, from very low to very high, you can do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And then same thing here, very low to very high, but 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And you should be able to, I don't know what the formula is that they use, but I can figure it out for you if you want.
Yeah, I mean, it looks like for a lot of the cells, it's you just multiply the probability by the impact, but then you get to the far left and far right ones, and it doesn't make any sense.
Right. So that actually is, let me take a screenshot of this, and if I can't sleep tonight, I will figure out the algorithm for you. Good question, though. You took it a step further from memorizing to figuring out the algorithm. So
I just kind of figure like if ever in the event where I have to work and calculate this stuff, I want to know how these numbers came about.
yeah, no. So thankfully they won't present this with like shaded, cells, and then you have to figure out the number. Let's say they would like shade this one and shade that one, and then you're like, oh crap. Knowing these other formulas, what is the answer to this one? No, you don't have to. So thankfully, but I will. And was that Victor?
Yeah, that was me.
Oh, okay.
Oh, Ian, I figured it out. It is just multiplying the probability by the negative impact. And the far left one, it looks weird, but 0.1 times 0.05 would be like what, 0.005, which rounds up to 0.01. Anyway, I think it
Yeah. Chris, you're absolutely right. So Victor, so let's take an example. Opportunities. Thank you, Chris. I didn't have to do math tonight.
yeah, sure.
So let's say that the impact for, first of all, it's a good thing. It's an opportunity. Everyone with me? So we're in this column. You can ignore the threat, right? So we're in opportunity, and let's say that the impact is moderate. So what is the numerical equivalent of a moderate impact? Right here, right?
0.2.
0.2. And say, Victor, let's say that the probability of this happening is pretty good. It is actually high. So what is the numerical equivalent of a high probability?
The 0.7?
0.7. So now let's do this. 0.7 times 0.2 should be 0.14, right?
Yeah.
So that was it. You just multiplied these two guys. Thank you, Chris. I was looking like in the box. I'm like, how do I calculate between these two guys?
Yeah. Sure.
So is everyone clear with that? Again, it's not on the test, but it's just something, if you were ever curious as to if very high and very high, the answer is 0.72. It's because we multiplied 0.8, this one very high, and this one 0.9. So 9 times 8 is, you can do it, guys.
72.
72.
And just adjust the decimal points. So I know it's late and on a Friday afternoon, and I'm like, hey, let's do some multiplication, folks, with decimals, no less. So cool. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Chris, for helping with that. So that is our probability and impact matrix. Now, to go back to your question, Victor, you can do this for yourself, and again, just do it like 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and here, low is 1 all the way to 5, and then you can just start multiplying, right? So if it's a low probability, 2, low impact, 2, so 2 times 2 is 4, right? So you can populate this by doing that as well.
That was good. Thank you.
Yeah, great questions. So quantitative, again, the difference is quantitative is numerical and qualitative is either, well, it's anything but numerical, right? So it could be color coding, it could be high, medium, and low. For this one hospital that Mike and I worked in, they were so enamored with traffic lights. So in all of our reports, we had traffic lights in terms of the risk. It was red, yellow, or green. So that's an example of a qualitative, right? All right. Risk response. So this is what you do, right? So what you do in response to a risk. And there are different risk responses. And I want to bring your attention to slide number 28. So this one you will have to memorize, but it's not too hard. Risk is easy. So negative risk is also called, Lana.
What was the word again?
That was my question to you.
Which word?
Negative risk.
Negative risk is threat.
Starts with a T.
Threat.
Threats, yes. And positive
Yeah.
risk?
Opportunity.
Opportunities. Okay. So how you respond to negative and positive risk are different, right? So let's say that you have no control over it happening. So let's say, for example, you're on the 405 driving to UCLA from Irvine, and there's really no other path. So what do? You just accept it, right? Like,
No, turn around.
turn around. Yep. And let's say that, Lana, you have a benefactor that said, hey, I really love the project you're working on. Here's $10,000 in support of this project. What do?
Accept.
Say thank you and run away before they change their mind. So yeah, so for things you have no control over, you accept. For things that you have control over, let's say that if it's negative, you can mitigate the risk, right? So let's see how we can lessen the impact. That's mitigating the risk. So if it's something in your control, you can mitigate. If it's a positive thing, you can actually enhance it. So let's say, for example, Kelly or Tuno, let's say that you need another tester, right, for your project. And you heard through the grapevine that Chris is a tester that's coming off of another project. And he might come off a little early, but it's not public knowledge yet. It's just, water cooler conversation. And Laana is Chris's boss, right? So you're in the cafeteria line. You can tell Laana, hey, I heard that Chris might be rolling off a little sooner. And Laana says, there's actually a probability. And then you put this bug in her ear and say, hey, if that happens, right? Do you think that I can use Chris for one of my testing plans, right? And then Lana says, we'll see, right? Because we don't know yet if he can. So what you did right there is you enhanced, you increased, right? You increased the probability that Chris will end up on your team if he indeed finishes his testing on this other project sooner. Does that make sense? So that is an example of enhance. You're increasing the odds that you will get Chris as a tester. You're increasing the odds that this positive risk, this opportunity, will come your way.
So
No.
would it be fair to say that you enhance the probability of an
Yes.
outcome? Okay.
That's right. You did. You enhance the probability of this positive risk. If you say that, the PMI folks would just jump up and down in happiness because now you're speaking their language. Oh my God, I just increased the probability of a positive risk. Said no one ever. Oh, Kelly, yes, thanks for letting me know. Yeah, we're almost done here, so you won't be missing much, but yeah, do listen to the last part because we're gonna finish covering this risk part here, and then we can call it a day. So enjoy the weekend. So, all right. So for things in your control, if it's negative, you want to avoid as much as possible, or not avoid, but decrease the impact and probability of it happening. If it's good, you want to enhance the probability of it happening. In terms of delegation, so transferring risk, an example of this would be when you buy auto insurance. So, Victor, what happens when I buy auto insurance? If I get into an accident, who covers it?
But will they determine whether whose fault it was, and then
So let's say, yeah, let's say, that's a good,
you know what? You're rich. I'll go up anyway.
yeah, exactly. It doesn't matter. Let's say it was your fault. Say it was your fault.
Ooh.
So you have to pay the deductible, as whatever happens, you pay the deductible. But after that, who pays for the rest? Let's say that the total damage was, I don't know, let's say 5,000 and your deductible was 500. So you pay the 500, who pays for the 4,500?
I don't know if I'm at fault. I don't know. Do I have to pay it?
No, your insurance company, right? So you pay your deductible and the insurance company pays for the rest. It's the same thing with
Yeah, I've
health
never been
insurance.
at fault, so I was confused there.
Yeah, so same thing with health insurance. Let's say that you got you ended up in the emergency room and you have a copay in the ER of, let's just say, 100, and the ER bill was, let's say, 5,000. Who pays for the 4,900?
All right, insurance does.
The insurance company. So what we did right there is we transferred, right? We transferred the responsibility from you to the insurance company. So that is transfer. Now, if it's something positive, let's say, for example, just sticking with that example of Chris, he might join the testing team, and now Laana, makes Chris available to all the different testing groups, right? So now you're sharing this. Should it happen, hey guys, Chris is going to be with us 40 hours a week, so we can definitely share in on his time. So if it's a good thing, you want to share. If it's a negative thing, you want to transfer it, like give it to someone else. Same thing if it's negative. If you can avoid it, for example, we're planning a wedding and it's a tropical place, and this is around, and we're looking at the calendar, and we do know that, let's say, June to August is sunny, and we know that, let's say, October to December is rainy. So we plan the wedding from June to August, right? So we're trying to avoid, right, season. So that's an example of avoiding a negative. So instead of planning it in the rainy season, we plan it during, the summertime. So that's avoiding it. A positive thing would be to exploit. So let's say that are you guys familiar with what is it, the northern lights, you know, the green like lights in like Finland and that Nordic area?
My
And
wife's obsessed with those.
sure. Quite fascinating. I haven't been, but my youngest has been bugging me about this because she also loved Huskies from some movie, you know, years back. And so between the Huskies and the Northern Lights, like we have to eventually visit Finland at some point. Now, the tricky part about it is, you know, nature doesn't really care about your travel plan. It you could be there for an entire week and not see it at all, right? Or you could be there for like one day and that day. Legit Santa Village. Oh my God. Have you been, Melissa?
I have not, but my cousin took her kid, and the kid is like, I will always believe because I guess it's so real. Like they go in like a sleigh into the forest. It's like
Wow.
really, really intense. Yeah.
I will keep that information to myself. That will be an unknown known to my daughter, because then she won't shut up about it. But oh dear Lord, that sounds amazing. So yeah, so a lot going on in that tiny country. So if you want to, well, first of all, if you want to enjoy the Huskies pulling you, you know, in the snow, so that has to be around winter. And then I really don't know if there's like a specific day that or like time of year where you have a higher chance
It's
of
when it's
seeing.
cold, so during the winter time you have a higher chance.
Oh, there you go. So perfect. So if we go in the winter, we can enjoy the Huskies pulling the sleigh and then the chances of seeing the northern stars. So that's a perfect example of exploiting, right? So we're stacking up the deck in our favor. So instead of going in the summertime, we go in the wintertime. And the last one is if it's something that will drastically affect the project, good or bad, you want to inform, right? Project sponsor and leadership. And in that case, in both instances, if it's really bad, you escalate. Or if it's really good, let's say it cuts the timeline by 30%, you still, you know, that's something you want to escalate as well. Like, hey, this is amazing news. So as you can see here, if you have no control, you both accept. If it greatly impacts, you both escalate. And the items here in the middle, if it's negative, you try, you know, if you can avoid it, avoid it. If you can give it to someone else, transfer, you give it to someone else. And if you can't avoid, can't give it to someone else, then you decrease the impact, that's mitigate, right? So that's negative. On the positive, if you can exploit it, then you do everything you can to take advantage of it. You can share it with the group, like in the tester example that we gave. Or you can do things to enhance it, like the example of, you know, that conversation in the cafeteria. Like, hey, just in case he gets off, can he be on our project? So there are different ways to respond to a risk, if it's positive or if it's negative. You just have to be, you know, super familiar because you will get one question about this slide right here. All right. Contingency response, responses may be used in the event that a specific trigger occurs. So this is your contingency plan, fallback plan. A lot of, you know, the military strategies, they have a contingency plan for if this happens, you know, biomedical, biohazard, you know, this is what we do. If it's a kinetic war, this is what we do. If it's, you know, cyber, this is what we do. So there's a lot of contingency planning. And so that's one. So for, your projects, it doesn't have to be as elaborate, obviously, as, what the Pentagon does, but it's good to have a fallback in terms of, let's say if you're ordering equipment or computer parts, if for whatever reason your supplier A doesn't have it, do we have a supplier B that can fulfill it? So something as simple as that. And the trigger, right? The trigger for this is when you call, let's say you're ordering it from Dell, and then Dell says, hey, Nick, I know you needed, 100 computers by, next Thursday. And we said we would be able to do it, but for whatever reason, we have inventory issues. And so that phone call is considered your trigger, right? So that phone call will allow you to start your contingency plan, and you would tell, Dell, like, thank you for letting me know. I might have enough time. Let me call another vendor to see if they can get it to me by next Thursday. So that is your contingency response strategies. That's obviously a very simplistic example, but nonetheless, it has all of the components. Something happens, you get informed, and then you initiate your backup plan. All right. So you don't want to be planning for risk and issues in the moment. You want to do this ahead of time so that, you're not having to think as you're responding to threats. So that's why, if you're working in the emergency room or the ICU, we have all of these protocols. We have the stroke protocol. We have, a diabetic protocol. Everything is already created in advance. So you just whip out that protocol and then you follow it instead of, what do we do in this situation? So it allows you to react quickly. All right, determine and implement risk responses. So the key here is to be able to pivot quickly and not allow your own idiosyncrasies or your ego, to make it bluntly, to interfere with your response. So when Apple came out with the iPhone, this was in 2007, companies like BlackBerry and Nokia, they kind of just laughed at it, right? Like, haha, who wants a phone that doesn't have physical, keyboard on it? Or it's too cumbersome, it's trying to do too much. And so they kind of, hid their heads in the sand. And before they knew it, by the time BlackBerry accepted that this is a thing and people like it, it was a little too late. And so, that really hurt their business. Same thing with Nokia, because they were relying on, their market share. So for BlackBerry, they were relying on the working class, especially the executive group. And for Nokia, they're relying on their market share in Asia, for example, right? But because they did not see the risk that was hitting their business with the iPhone, they didn't react in time, and it drastically hurt their business. Is BlackBerry still around? I don't
They're
even
still
know.
around, but they don't produce devices. They're more of a software company that does computer security stuff.
Wow. But pretty much every movie, right? Back in like late 90s, early 2000s, every movie had someone with a BlackBerry, right? If they're important, they have a BlackBerry. But now they're gone. So their inability to respond quickly to risk drastically hurt them. So we can stop right there because we covered all of the risk stuff. And all right, so that was a lot that we had to cover net new today. as always, let's do our 3 shares and we will close out our session.
I liked we're talking about signal versus noise.
Yes.
How to differentiate between the two and be careful not to communicate too much because you don't want it to become noise.
Very good. Thanks, Victor. Awesome. 2 more.
I would mention the knowns and unknowns.
Yeah. I still
Um,
have to think about that every time I teach that slide because it's, again, no one uses those terminologies. So I still have to brush up on it. So yeah, I'm glad that you guys were able to pick that up. And last one before we go.
Risks, for whatever reason, can be positive in the world of PMP.
That's right. And the positive risk is called
Opportunities.
opportunities. And with that, I'll give you the opportunity to jump into the weekend.
Thank you, Ian.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Bye, Ian. Have a great weekend.
Have a good weekend.